more tale about an orange-faced buffoon who should be in a jail. When people say he's done something that goes beyond the pale, he will shake his head and give this answer without fail. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he says he tells no lies and that he never jokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he said it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, changing a storm path with black marker strokes. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it's for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, they'll fool you with distractions like real sugar in Cokes. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all the MAGA base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll keep on gaslighting up until he croaks. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax.
Trump piled debt, trillions tall. Promised Mexico would fund that wall. Praised dictators, said they're strong. Had Joe done it, they'd say he's wrong. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd scream foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Goes through crises, storms, and more. Called soldiers losers who died in war. Hire his kids to run DC. If it was Hunter, they'd scream treachery. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, Fox News would say our day. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Love Kim Jong-un, he wrote love letters that take the guns first, lose those rights forever. Signed you spending bills with glee. Had Joe done that, it'd be tyranny. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout out today. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Kept secret files, countless untold. Said Putin's word was good as gold. Invited the Taliban to come to U.S. soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd want him to pay. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Double standards, loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason, if Joe's the name, is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip.
This just in. A sudden spike in logic levels across the city. Citizens report seeing a man with glasses and a podcast mic. We go now live to Liberal Dan. Yo, who you gonna call when Nazi writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, cause you know we got a plan. The right wing talking shit, but he ain't about to quit. He'll take his proton pack and zap your logic cause it's whack. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall.
It's being reported that Liberal Dan is setting up what appears to be some sort of straw man containment field.
He's calling out your lies with his mic, he'll vaporize. Cross the streams in your dreams, bitch, you know that he's too wise. You're like Slimer talking crap, but you walked into his trap. Yo, it's more than entertainment, it's misinformation contained. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. The Statue Liberty, the writing you can see. So bring the huddled masses, it's a war of the classes. While Trump may think he's Vigo, Dan can cut through that ego. He's got the facts to prove him wrong, got that logic like Egon. Your logic is a ghost, cause you know this chick is toast. When you follow MTG, it's conspiracy, you'll see. There's no need to taser, he's got wit like Occam's razor. Liberal Dan cuts those lies with his Jewish-based laser.
It's unbelievable. Liberal Dan just used the literal dog whistle to lure a large group of internet trolls into what is being called a self-collapsing rhetoric singularity. In all my years of reporting, I've never seen anything like this.
So don't call to be a heckler, you ain't no Judge Rexler. He'll bust you like Scolary, cause your logic's looking hairy. Right-wing callers think they're cool, but they sounding just like Zool. You the dog, he the man, and yo, his name is Liberal Dan. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan.
Self-proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. Faux patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk comes the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right.
And welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join the conversation, just join us in the chat room, either at liberaldanradio.com or twitch.liberaldanradio.com. Obviously, the first one is the YouTube channel, so welcome all who are here already. I hope you're not hearing the phone call that my son's getting on his iPad that he's now fetching. Thank you very much, Henry, for fetching that for me.
Yep, I heard it.
You want this as well?
Yep.
There you go. Anyway, so I was waiting for that to happen before the show started, but he waited right until the show starts to come in. So hey, there you go. I need an on-air light to go outside the room saying, "Stay out the room if we're on air unless it's a vital emergency." Your iPad not being one, but you know it is. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Trump.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Anyway, so a bunch of stuff to talk about today. One main topic, as you saw on the intro, basically Trump's anti-Semitism, and the anti-Semitism of this administration is back, and it's, you know, more bold than ever. And honestly, it's from something that happened last year, but it's something that I just learned about today, and it's still going on, so we're going to talk about it. We're also going to talk about several of the other things. Volume check. Are you having a problem, Jackie, hearing it? Let me see. Is this better? Or maybe it's this. Maybe it's the sound settings for... Yeah, that would be it right there. For some reason, I don't know why, but my computer always insists on lowering my mic volume, and I can't stand it. So, you know, you'd think you'd be able to like set it here and leave it alone. Don't move it. But nope. Technology likes to think it's smarter than you, but it's not, because clearly my voice was too low prior because of your stupid settings, computer. So thank you, computer, for being stupid. Anyway, shouts out to Orvilby over in the Twitch chat, Jackie, Bonnie, Tim, Josh C's, Jolie, who else be here? Who else be here? Steve from across the pond.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
Alton Gillespie from Texas, Jeff from just north of Uranus, Suzanne, who else am I missing here so far? If I do miss you, I apologize. We'll get back to you. And one of these days, perhaps I might have enough people watching as the audience, so I might not be able to get to everybody and say hello to everybody, but we're not there yet, although we are still kind of growing, so I appreciate that. And again, shouts out to everybody who is working with, who is commenting on videos. Again, you're helping the algorithm out as well. I see it. I've seen, again, the uptick in, increased uptick in views that go along with the increased uptick in y'all responding, y'all commenting on videos. I appreciate it. This is exactly what's needed to be done. We will continue to grow that way if y'all continue to help out that way, and that's the best thing. Again, one half of the mod squad's here. Not sure if Erin's joining us the next day or two, but she deserves to have a little break for herself. So if she does show up, hey Erin. If she doesn't show up, it's okay too. Anyway, so blah blah blah. I think we've got through everybody who to say hello to first. Let's just go ahead and kick off the show. Let's not get too much in the weeds of not talking about topical issues. One of the first things I want to talk about is simply the fact that, you know, when it comes to the, you know, ICE murderers, you now have people like frickin' Stephen Miller suggesting that the ICE agents may have violated policy. May have. Not that they did, but they may have, which, you know, clearly they should have been considered to have violated policy. But the fact that Stephen Miller is actually saying this, despite the fact that he's one of the ones trying to mislabel Alex Preddy as a domestic terrorist and somebody who was there to, you know, cause a ruckus or whatever. Of course, Stephen Miller's shunting it off on the Border Patrol agents, probably bovine excrement, as to why he said what he said. And of course, Kristi Noem is trying to push it off on Stephen Miller and Donald Trump as to why she said what she said. So everybody is kind of circling the firing squad at each other, and well, let's hope they don't miss, right? But you know, one of the things that I said 2 days ago was that what should happen in a case where law enforcement is involved with a shooting and somebody dying, whether or not they want to call it a murder or not, they should be put on administrative leave, because there's too much stuff that could happen with them, with the stress of having to deal with it. If it was a legitimate shooting, then somebody dealing with that would still probably have some issues dealing on, you'd want to go talk to a therapist, a psychologist, or whatever you want to go have that dealt with. Of course, we all know it's not a valid shooting, and if it's not a valid shooting, they should be taken off the streets as well, and not put in, not putting other people in their harmful way, right? But apparently today it came out that they are, in fact, on administrative leave. So maybe someone from the Trump administration listens to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. If you do, shoot me an email with other good information that I can report on. Because, if you're a fan, definitely want to know. I also want to know why you're working for there, unless, you're trying to do some good trouble and be kind of like a mole leaking out the information that the public needs to know. So if you are, kudos on that. But again, I doubt anybody from the Trump administration is listening to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. But if they are, hi, welcome, nice to see you. We all know that according to our other friend up in North Carolina, that Marjorie Taylor Greene listened to one of my episodes too. So hey, that is of course always interesting.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald, or thank you, Marge, I guess I should say, or the former Congressperson Marge, old 6B. Anyway, so yeah, it's interesting to see that, they're actually taking a step that should have been taken, which is putting these two on administrative leave. What should have happened also is additional training should have been given to make sure that these people are adequately trained to know not to, murder people while they're on duty. Obviously, they shouldn't murder people on off duty too, but when they're off duty, they're not acting as agents of the federal government. And of course, also the federal government has also told us that we are not going to be having investigations into the violations of Alex Pretty's civil rights, which clearly happens, which is why the state needs to take action. The state needs to step up and say, okay, this person is going to be put under arrest. This person is going to have charges pressed against him, because we can all see from the video that that individual clearly and unequivocally illegally killed this individual, whether or not you want to call it manslaughter or murder or whatever. But, we call it murder here on Liberal Dan Radio, talk from left, that's right. That's our opinion, right? But you also have, people in the comment sections. I said video proves murder. They're just choosing ignorance. And somebody said, he just got shot for being stupid. Yeah. And I'm like, show us your work. Exactly what did he do that was stupid? And the response I got was, should be there. That's why he got shot like an idiot. Probably meant shouldn't have been there, I guess. I don't know. But Donald Trump did say that he loved the poorly educated after the 2016 Nevada primaries. And apparently those supporters have made it into the comment sections. And again, somebody else responded, shouldn't have been there, period. And my, of course, response to that was, found another person who uses the Constitution instead of two-ply. So there you go with that. Of course, there will be more and more coming out about this case and about the murder of both Renee Nicole Good and Alex Pretty, and potentially others if ICE, murders more people in the future, and we'll be covering all that. But we're going to take a step back from talking about that, with the exception of that small update today, because we do want to talk about one of the other main subjects. But again, before we get to that subject, we have one or two other things that we do want to talk about. One of which is the attack on Ilhan Omar. Representative Omar was at a town hall, and here's some video from the Washington Post showing specifically the moments leading up to and several angles of the attack, or at least the attempted attack. I guess it technically is assault and battery, because she did get squirted with something. Let's see what happened.
And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
And as you can see there, clearly something squirted out from some syringe type object or something. But the other video, the other angle of this just goes to show you why Ilhan Omar is an absolute badass. Here we go. Let's watch this other angle that's going to be coming up. Here comes somebody with like whatever, the syringe or whatever, spraying some whatever that liquid was at her, and she's like, nope, we ain't playing today. She puts up her fist. She goes after the dude until somebody else, I guess, pulls him away, and then they kind of pull her back too. She doesn't play. she was not about to, you know, sit back and be a victim by these MAGA Nazis. And here we go, have one that's, you know, actually committing a crime. And she didn't. I mean, if it was Donald Trump, he would have, like, cowered behind somebody. He wouldn't have been brave. He only feigns bravery after his ear gets shot off, even though we all know that ear cartilage doesn't grow back, and that's why he's miracle ear, right? But she's sitting there, and she's giving her speech, and she's like, I'm going to stand up for myself, and I'm going to come after you for daring to come after me.
Strong, and we will stay resilient in the face of whatever they might throw at us.
And again, they told her that they wanted her to step back down and go seek immediate medical care, because who the hell knows what might have been in that syringe. And hopefully we do. Hopefully it's just water, for her sake. Hopefully he was just being theatrical, which is still assault and still, you know, terrorizing the people in that room and the congressperson herself. But still, hopefully it was nothing harmful or anything that would cause any harm to come to her. But the fact that she was willing to step up and you know, pull up and be like, hey, what's up? I mean, mad respect, mad props to Ilhan Omar. I mean, I don't agree with her 100% of the time on all the things, but I mean, I got to give her props there. I mean, that's much better than what happened with Bush when Bush got his shoe thrown at him, right? But yeah, I mean, absolutely 100% badass. You know, she probably should be given the wallet of Jules from Pulp Fiction. She deserves that wallet 100%. See, kind of not, Jeff's like, not gonna lie, that's kind of how I act when I see a syringe. My kids sometimes might act that way too when they see a syringe, but she, I mean, she stepped up. She pulled up on him and was like, look, we gonna go. I'm going to defend myself. And she did not hesitate in defending herself. Yeah, and, you know, of course, Donald Trump, he was like, she probably had somebody, like, she probably manufactured the whole thing and had somebody spray her with it, because I know how she is. Yeah, you know how she is. She's somebody who's a badass who doesn't take no shit, unlike you, who is a cowardly piece of shit who won't have, you know, stand up for whatever it is that you claim to believe in, except for yourself when it comes to your money or whatever. Damn grifter. Speaking of the grift, speaking of grifters, let's go ahead and talk a little about the movie that's opening tomorrow. We discussed the Melania movie a little bit, but let's go ahead and discuss this movie about Melania Trump and everything that, you know, low ticket sales. Like, apparently there was the big movie theater, I think, in the middle of Manhattan, maybe in the middle of Times Square, and like 0 tickets were sold. Like, absolutely no tickets were sold to this thing. There are other areas that might have like 5 or 10, you know, seats sold in the entire theater for the entire weekend or whatever. It's not doing well. But who needs it to do well, right? Is that the point of having this movie? Let's talk about one thing we've talked about here on Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right, before, which is you have examples where politicians will write books, right? So they'll write a memoir. Like, let's say Kristi Noem wanted to write a book about how she murdered dogs again or whatever, or maybe this is what happened. This could have been what happened with, you know, what happened with his first book. I don't know specifically if this happened with her first book, but let's use it as an example. What could hypothetically happen would be a politician writes a book. Now, typically, you cannot funnel money from like political organizations like a PAC or whatever directly to a candidate. So they can't get money that way, because that would be a violation of campaign finance laws. But there's nothing against somebody who is a politician writing a book. I mean, I'm surprised that Noam and everybody can write a book that's not in crayons, but they write a book, and then the RNC, for example, goes and buys 20,000 copies of the book from the get-go, allowing that person now to gain a bunch of money. So they're basically funneling the contributions that are being given to the RNC, which normally couldn't be paid to a political candidate, and instead use it to buy their book and give the books to other people. And as such, now you have money. Now you have the ability to make money from political contributions with it being legal, even if you're just circumventing campaign finance laws. So that happens a lot. And I'm sure the left does it too, for all the conservatives who might be watching and might want to be like, well, what about when the DNC does it? Again, when the DNC, if and when the DNC does it, it's also a circumvention of campaign finance rules, and, you know, people should be called out on it regardless of whether or not they are doing it. So here's this example of this movie, and you have what? Bezos, Amazon, whatever, basically decided that they were going to shell out the money to have it. And is this Jeff Bezos trying to curry favor with Donald Trump and the Trump administration by paying to, you know, get this movie distributed? It could be. You also have the situation where Melania Trump is also the executive producer, one of the executive producers. So does that mean that she's also going to get money on the back end for any of the ticket sales it has, plus getting money from the front end from being able to, you know, have this movie made about her life or whatever? Again, and I have no desire to see this movie. It's just going to be another piece of propaganda that's meant to make everybody feel nice, warm, fuzzy things about the Trump administrations. And I have no desire to learn anything that might be nice and warm and fuzzy about that family, because they're a bunch of Nazi grifters who are just going to bring harm and pain to more people in this country. And I have no desire to help that out. And nobody should be wanting to go see this movie. Of course, again, who's to stop, like, for example, the RNC from buying a whole bunch of tickets and then giving them out as passes or whatever, or just, you know, just allowing it to have more and more money funneled to the Trump family, in this case via Melania Trump instead of Donald Trump, right? That's how the grift works, and they are going to continue grifting until they can grift no more. So, and one of the other things about this movie that's just interesting is that who they chose to actually direct and produce it, which is Brett Ratner. Brett Ratner in October 2017 was accused of raping somebody, a former talent agency employee, and November 1st, 2017, 6 women also came out with additional allegations against Brett Ratner, and they announced that they had severed ties with Ratner afterwards. And then Ratner said that he was stepping away from all Warner Brothers related activities. Warner Brothers was renewing the issue. In April 2018, Warner Brothers announced they would not renew their $450 million co-producing deal with the Rat Pack, or whatever, RATPAC. Ratner has denied the 27 allegations against him. Of course, if one person comes forward, you know, you still listen to the people making the allegations, but once multiple people start coming forward and saying, hey, you did these shitty things, then it's hard for me to not believe the people, multitudes of people coming forward saying that they did the shitty things. Especially when a photo released in December 2025 from the Epstein file shows Ratner posing with Epstein associate Jean-Luc Brunel, whatever. So yeah, so there's ties with the producer and director of the Melania film to the Epstein file. So look at that. Interesting, huh? And they want to say it's just the Democrats, right? Of course, anybody, you know, who's involved with Epstein and crimes involving Epstein's victims should all be punished. I don't care if you're right, left, Democrat, Republican, liberal, leftist, MAGA, whatever you are, whoever you are, get buried under the prison. That should be the case. But here's an interesting thing. Here's an interesting thing to bring up, which is simply the fact that I usually say that Donald Trump follows Adolf Hitler's playbook as it pertains to, you know, his using Nazi tactics to rise to power. And in many cases, that's true. This may very well be an example where he diverges from Adolf Hitler's, you know, plans, or what Goebbels or whatever wanted to do to promote how the people of Germany would see Adolf Hitler versus how the people of America will see Donald Trump and how Donald Trump is doing things. And what I mean by that is simply, people really didn't know much about Eva Braun when Adolf Hitler was rising to power. They basically wanted to make sure that that the people of Germany all thought that he was married to Germany. He was married to the Reich. He was married to the nation, so he had no time for a wife of his own. So she was pretty much mostly kept in solitude. She was kept pretty much away from him. And so basically women who might fawn over, you know, Adolf Hitler, people like, why would people fawn over Hitler? Well, people fawn over Trump too, because that power and money is attractive to some people. It just makes me seem like, ugh, ick, or whatever. But there are people who want those sort of things. And so therefore they are going to woo or worship him like, worship Trump like the women in Germany maybe worshipped Adolf Hitler as well. So that's, I guess, one difference between Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler, and one example of Donald Trump not using Nazi tactics. Now, just because there's one example, it doesn't mean that he's just completely decided to go cold turkey and stop using Nazi tactics. Nope, that's not the case. Because here is something from the Jewish Voice for Peace. The Trump regime is demanding a list of Jews from UPenn. Trump administration has demanded a list of anyone affiliated with Penn's Jewish Studies program, anyone belonging to a Jewish club on campus, presumably including Penn's JVP chapter, Jewish Voice for Peace, and anyone who participated in one of Penn's task force on anti-Semitism listening sessions and survey. Penn has rejected Trump's demands for a list of Jews, stating singling out organizations and individuals for such an invasion of privacy based on their actual or presumed religious affiliation would be deeply troubling under any circumstances. It is particularly chilling in light of the persecution that has often followed when you have compilations of lists, specifically lists of Jews in particular. We hope that this decision to fight back marks a realization by Penn's leadership that their previous strategy of appeasing the Trump administration's authoritarian attacks on higher education have failed. Until now, the University of Pennsylvania has been all too quick to bend the knee to Trump, most notably in July of 2025, that it cut a deal and sold out trans members of the UPenn community. Our history and tradition teaches us that Jewish safety can only be achieved through a framework of mutual liberation and fighting for the rights of all. Penn needs to make amends. It needs to protect trans community members. It sold out in July with this deal. It must apologize for unlawful suspension of Penn's SJP chapter, and it must revoke the discredited and discriminatory IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which silences criticism of the Israeli government. So there's that. There's more. Jewish Voice for Peace has long warned that when organizations like Hillel and the ADL weaponize false accusations of anti-Semitism to attack the Palestinian solidarity movement, they are enabling authoritarian regimes that will ultimately make Jews less safe. Our safety comes through solidarity. Liberation comes through organizing. Now's the time to join together and fight back. And while they were being critical of the Hillel and the Anti-Defamation League, they were being critical of that. It is actually a truthful statement to say that majority or most of the Jewish organizations on campus of UPenn have joined the ACLU of Pennsylvania with this lawsuit. ACLU of Pennsylvania has filed a motion to intervene in EEOC versus the University of Pennsylvania on behalf of 5 organizations affiliated with the University of Pennsylvania after the EEOC issued a subpoena to the trustees of the University of Pennsylvania demanding that Penn create and turn over membership rosters for Jewish studies programs, Jewish and Jewish-affiliated campus organizations, plus personal contact information and addresses of those Jewish members. On January 13th, 2026, ACLU of Pennsylvania, Democracy Defenders Fund, and the Hagley, Aronchik, Segal, Pudlin, and Schiller filed a motion to intervene in EEOC versus University of Pennsylvania on behalf of 5 organizations affiliated with Penn. Federal lawsuit was filed by the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, after it issued a subpoena to the trustees of the university demanding that Penn create and turn over membership rosters for the Jewish Studies program and Jewish-affiliated campus organizations, plus personal contact information and addresses of the Jewish members, blah, 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 and Penn refused. ACLU and others represent 5 organizations representing Penn's Jewish faculty and staff. The intervening organizations are the American Academy of Jewish Research, the Jewish Law Students Association of the University of Pennsylvania, CARI, the Law School, JLSA, the American Association of University Professors, the University of Pennsylvania chapter of AAUP, and Penn Association of Senior and Emeritus Faculty. If intervention is granted, the groups will seek to protect the privacy of their Jewish students, faculty, and staff by opposing the non-consensual release of Penn's organizational membership rosters and members' personal information based on the First Amendment right to associate confidentially. And then according to the Times of Israel, Again, it reports against the backdrop of rising anti-Semitism, the prospect of forcible non-consensual disclosure of personal information, including not only personal phone numbers and email addresses, but home addresses, which may provide individuals' physical locations, poses a visceral threat to Jewish employee safety and security. EEOC first began investigating allegations of anti-Semitism in December 2023. While the EEOC has not accused Penn of violating anti-discrimination laws, its petition said it was unable to complete an investigation without contacting Jewish employees about the university's response. Last week, several groups representing Jewish faculty and students also filed a motion to intervene. And then the groups are, let's see, there's several groups that run the thing. University's response was endorsed in separate court filings by Rabbi Rick Fox, the executive director of MEOR Penn, Rabbi Gabriel Greenberg, the executive director of Penn Hillel, and Rabbi Menachem Schmidt, the co-executive director of Chabad at Penn. So between Hillel and Chabad and MEOR, you have a bunch of diverse Jewish groups who are actively standing up against the Trump administration and their request to do this. Now, remember, if you remember from way back, early on in the Trump administration, way back last year, pretty much a year ago tomorrow, in fact, it was a year ago tomorrow that the Donald Trump administration released an executive order, 5 executive orders on that particular day, and the one executive order was titled Additional Measures to Combat Anti-Semitism. And what was the number of that? What was the number of that executive order? 14188. And if you remember, 14188 can be looked at by Nazis to see 14/88. 14 standing for the 14 words that white supremacists use to talk about how they want to preserve the history for their kin or whatever the hell it is that the 14 words are actually. Again, I haven't taken the time to memorize those exact words of the Nazis. And then, of course, 88, H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. HH, 88, HH is Hail Hitler. So therefore, 14/88 is a Nazi dog whistle. And so you cannot tell me, you will never be able to convince me that the numbering of this executive order was in any way some sort of coincidence. This is clearly done purposely, if not by Donald Trump himself, by somebody in his administration, to be a Nazi dog whistle. And he can say all he wants, that he wants to combat anti-Semitism, but the proof is in the pudding. Actions speak louder than words. Numbering this executive order with Nazi numbers, Nazi numerology, white supremacist numerology, is just another way that this administration shows that he loves and cares for part of the poorly educated, which is the people who are neo-Nazis, because you have to be poorly educated to be a Nazi. It just that's how it is. That's the way it goes. That's the way it is. Some things will never change. But you might say, well, there are also other examples that we've talked about where Donald Trump has jumped into using Adolf Hitler's tactics as he rose to power, from calling, Hitler said Lügenpresse, lying press. Donald Trump uses fake news, scapegoating entire religions. During the first campaign, it was scapegoating the entirety of Islam. They were going to ban Muslims from entering the country until they figure out what was going on or whatever. So you had all those examples. You had in the last campaign, Donald Trump clearly stated at a conference on anti-Semitism, basically said that if he were to lose in this upcoming election or the previous presidential election, that it would be the fault of the Jews. So blaming the Jews, who are a minority of the population here in this country, for him losing an election in this country is just frankly absurd and ridiculous, and should have been seen by anybody who's Jewish as, oh, this is another attempt of him being anti-Semitic. But again, there are Jews back during Hitler's time who didn't think that the threat from Hitler was really that bad either, and they just went along with it because they thought the grass was greener on the other side. But people might wonder, did Adolf Hitler do anything sort of similar? Did Adolf Hitler kind of feign looking like he was being, nicer to the Jews or something like that, or maybe easing off some of his initial anti-Semitism rhetoric to try and soften his stance, to try and make Jews feel like they might be more safe within his administration? Yes, in fact, he did. During the 1936 Berlin Olympics, which led up to the 1936 Winter and Summer Olympic Games, or in the lead up, I should say, to the 1936 Winter and Summer Olympic Games, the Nazis toned down anti-Jewish propaganda and removed Jews' unwelcome signs to project a peaceful image to the world and reduce international criticism of Hitler's Nazi regime, which at that point had only been in power for 3 years. They had created a model ghetto, the Rheinstadt. The Nazis called a show ghetto at the Rheinstadt to deceive the public, including the Red Cross. They cynically publicized this as a retirement community for elderly and disabled Jews, even forcing inmates to beautify the town to hide the reality of the deportations that were going on, or the people being sent off to camps or whatever. So they tried to make it look like, oh, we're being nice. This is just a good little retirement community for all our Jews. And nope, that wasn't that. 1939, there was a so-called temporary truce. Shortly before the start of World War II, Hitler briefly suggested a truce between his anti-Semitic campaign to facilitate the orderly and profitable immigration of Jews, i.e. to allow the Jews to move out, only to break it shortly thereafter to accelerate the seizure of Jewish property. Of course, he also gave false promises of resettlement. As deportations to death camps began, Nazi officials used euphemisms like evacuation or resettlement to deceive victims into believing that they were being moved to labor camps in the East rather to their deaths. Some of these policies were focused only on immigration. By 1941, this evolved into the, quote, final solution. Deception remained a core component to prevent the resistance, often using fake work or resettlement narratives to lure victims. What's outside of Auschwitz? Work brings freedom, right? That's what it said in front of Auschwitz in German. So that was the deceptive tactic. So what's Donald Trump doing here? To me, they're trying to make this claim, and of course, according to the EEOC website, the U.S. Equal Opportunity. Hold on, this is being stupid. Federal agency seeks court order for information relating to potential witnesses and victims of anti-Semitic harassment on campus. The U.S. Equal Opportunity Commission today announced the filing of an action in federal court to enforce a subpoena issued during its investigation into claims that Penn was engaged in unlawful employment practices by allowing anti-Semitic harassment to persist and escalate throughout its Philadelphia campus, creating a hostile work environment for Jewish faculty and staff. And of course, they don't give a shit about the faculty and staff. They're just trying to use this to get the information about Jews. To investigate the allegations. Of course, the investigation started in 2023, but the request for information on Jews didn't start until after Trump took power. To investigate these allegations, EOC issued a subpoena to the University of Pennsylvania requesting, among other things, identification of witnesses and victims, blah, 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 of the so-called religious-based harassment, including their contact information. The EEOC remains steadfast in its commitment to combating workplace anti-Semitism, and it seeks to identify employees who may have experienced anti-Semitic harassment. Yes, please, come to the Nazis and let us know how you've been treated in an anti-Semitic way so we can then deal with that, aka you. Unfortunately, the employer continues to refuse to identify members of its workforce who may have been subjected to this unlawful conduct. An employer's obstruction to efforts to identify witnesses and victims undermines the EEOC's ability to investigate harassment. In such cases, we will seek out court intervention to secure full cooperation. They filed the case in U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania after trying to obtain voluntary compliance with its investigative requests. University of Pennsylvania is an academic institution and is the largest employer in Philadelphia. Yada, yada, yada. So here's the deal. Here's what I want to know. Here's what I would ask to these clowns in the EEOC under the Trump administration. Why would you need the University of Pennsylvania to be forced to give you the information about who may very well felt like they were a target of discrimination by the part of the university in terms of their employment by what may have happened on the University of Pennsylvania's campus or not? Why would they need to force the University of Pennsylvania to give that information? Why not instead say, hey, we are concerned with what's going on, what could potentially be going on your campus. We would like to be able to reach out to anybody who's Jewish who feels like they may have been targeted by these events, or who feel that they may have had an unsafe work environment because of whatever we claim is going on in your campus, and then as such enable them to be able to go to the EEOC and to give their statements to the EEOC directly. Therefore, the only people who would be coming forth and actually be giving the information are the people who felt victimized. And you could easily accomplish that simply by saying, hey, send out an all campus-wide email, send an email to all faculty, to all staff, to all students. Say, hey, this is something coming from our our universities, whatever department would be the appropriate department to send such emails out. The EEOC believes that there may be some people who have been harmed by potential anti-Semitic activity, and as such, we would like to offer you the opportunity to go to see them instead. Here's the contact information for the local chapter of the EEOC or whatever, the local or the attorneys for the U.S. District in Eastern Pennsylvania. Here's who you can reach out to and contact to let them know that you would like to give a statement about if you feel that you were targeted by anti-Semitic harassment or not, and then give the power and the opportunity to those people who felt that they may have been wronged. Let them go make their case to the people who were trying to investigate the supposed anti-Semitism that took place on campus, and then that way you're not giving away the information of people or identifying people who are Jewish who don't want to be identified as Jewish, while giving people who may have felt victimized the ability to come forward and give their statements and help build the case if such a case is available to be built, which I doubt it's there, because, you know, this is the Trump administration, and the Trump administration lies about every single goddamn thing on the face of the earth. So, but obviously they didn't do that. Why? Because they want to have that information. They want to be able to collect all that information. And history tells us that when you start doing that, it's a recipe for disaster. And it can be only used for nefarious purposes. So I do not believe for 1 second that this administration is trying to protect Jews, especially because you have the head Nazi in chief, Donald Trump, who has done way too many anti-Semitic things for any person to be comfortable about him and whether or not he's anti-Semitic or not. He clearly is an anti-Semite, 100%. No shadow of a doubt. Oh, but his kids are Jewish. His daughter converted to Judaism and his grandkids are Jewish. You're not going to tell me that if one of David Duke's kids decided to be what he would probably call a race traitor and go ahead and date and married a individual who happened to be black, and then they had kids, you're not going to be able to tell me that David Duke would magically be no longer anti-Semitic or or racist or bigoted or whatever. You can't tell me that David Duke would stop hating black people simply because one of his children decided to marry one. He'd probably hate black people more. Oh, well, Donald Trump just made comments that says that he feels that Jews are good with money. That's part of the problem. By trying to say that Jews are good with money, first of all, you're ignoring all the Jews that are bad with money. And second of all, you're basically perpetuating a global stereotype that is perpetuated for eons and eons and eons. For as long as Jews have existed, pretty much, we've had these claims against us. And especially once it became true that, you know, under the church, that you couldn't loan money from one Christian to another Christian. So the only people that could loan money to other people in the area who needed money loaned to them were Jewish people. And as such, the Jewish people became the money lenders. And that's how they became associated with being good with the money. So they forced Jews into the role and then criticized the Jews for filling the role that they created for the Jews themselves. It's a self-fulfilling, perpetuating prophecy. You're basically saying only Jews can do this, and now we're going to blame the Jews for doing this. Again, tell as old as time, right? The old bait and switch. So, but yeah, again, no conservative out there is going to be able to come in here and I mean, look, I doubt, I'll say it this way, I am always open to having my mind change, but there's so much that has gone on by this administration that I sincerely doubt that there will ever be an opportunity that any conservative will be able to make a cogent argument to me that says this is why Donald Trump is not anti-Semitic, and have me be, oh, I'm convinced, because I won't be, because there's so much out there that already shows him as being anti-Semitic. And this example of Donald Trump demanding a list of all the Jewish people who are a part of Jewish-affiliated groups on campus, that's just one more straw that's breaking that damn camel's back. 250 kilos. Same with Hollywood. Exactly. Again, we had a caller call in about that. A conservative caller called in and tried to talk about that, and is like trying to be. I was like, why is the fact that there are some people who are Jewish who may be in charge of Hollywood studios, that doesn't mean that Jews control Hollywood, because their Jewishness is irrelevant to whether or not they're in that position of power that they're in or not. Just like the whole thing in Minneapolis and with all the supposedly Somali daycare centers that are fraudulent. What about them being Somali run is relevant to the fact that there's fraud going on? You have to establish to me before you start saying that all these Somali daycares are fraudulent. Why is it that they're Somali? Why is the Somali part at all relevant? It's not, unless you're racist and you want to make a point about villainizing and terrorizing the Somali community in Minneapolis, and as such you're going to go after these Somali run daycares because what's important is not the fraud, but the fact that they're Somali, of Somali heritage, of Somali background, etc. So therefore you're going to go after that to fuel your xenophobia and use whatever fraud that might have happened. Of course, much of it was of the 100 arrests or so that took place about fraudulent activities that were going on. The ringleader of the big one was, a white woman and not a Somali woman. So trying to blame that on Somalis is more racism, because you're ignoring the fact that the ringleader wasn't even Somali, but you're still trying to put the blame on Somali folks for what went on. But there's, again, another tale as old as time. Vilify the minority to try and make society look down at them and justify your actions, which then justify other actions, which then are used to justify even more actions. And that's how we get to Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy being murdered. That's how we get to ICE terrorizing our streets. That's how we get to people who are not here in violation of our border policies getting detained and deported, people who are working here legally, people who are citizens here who just happen to look like they might look like somebody who might have crossed the border in violation of our border policies, etc. This is how we get there, and this is why we need to all be informed and educated about what the hell is going on here in order to, step up and say enough is enough. And enough should have been enough in the first term, but we were too stupid and too racist and too sexist to elect somebody who would have been, a reasonable person. I'm not saying I would agree with Vice President Harris's policies 100%. I might have very well spoken out some of them as well. I spoke out some of her actions when she was AG of California. Still doesn't mean that she's, would have been worse than Trump. She would have been absolutely miles better than Trump for everybody on the global stage, on the local stage, on the national stage. She would have been so much better, but to too many people, she was a black woman, and either the blackness was too much or the woman was too much, and they couldn't bring themselves to vote for a black woman, which is unfortunate, but just another, again, sign of our continued dystopian times here in these United States of America. Big Hook says, Donald only cares if you have lots of money. Religious affiliation matters not if you can line his pockets. Well, sure, because he'll make deals with Qatar. He'll villainize the Muslims, but he'll make deals with Qatar. He'll let Qatar send him a nice big fat fancy jet that he'll be able to take with him after he leaves, and no Republican will bat an eye about it, despite the emoluments clause of the Constitution, despite the fact that there are laws preventing him from obtaining gifts. Oh, but it's going to go to his library. No, it shouldn't go to his library. But again, I don't trust that a foreign government is going to give us a plane that's not going to be a Trojan horse. And I don't trust that this administration is adept enough to be able to find any problems that might exist in such a plane that might help, the Qatari folks, the Qatari government, or any other people in the Middle East, or anywhere else for that matter. I don't believe that this administration is adept enough to figure out, we found all of the potential bugs that might be used to snoop on us, and therefore here you go. Here's our now new Air Force One that's going to, basically be a direct line for the world to give access to top secret information of these United States. So, anyway. 250 kilo, the racist mindset of a portion of America is exhausting. Oh, absolutely. And especially, usually I'm not considered to be in an oppressed and marginalized group because, white, cis, man, all that sort of thing. I am, so typically I am somebody of privileged, and I don't have to deal with the exhaustive nature of all of the bigotry that goes on in this country. And sometimes I'm not even allowed to claim that I'm an oppressed and marginalized group for being Jewish, because too much criticism of Judaism comes from people who are being Ashken normative, and for people who only think that, Jews are white, so therefore they're not discriminated against, and they want to ignore, the history of us, the history of the Jewish people. But in those times where it is clear as day that us being Jewish poses a threat to our everyday lives, I know you now would wonder, hey, why would Jewish people fight back if Jews did nothing wrong, and if they're simply looking at the Jewish people as being the victims, why would they have a problem with the information being obtained? Well, this is why, because of the history of the world and how we have been treated through the entirety of our existence, and as such, we can't risk it. We can't risk saying, oh, this guy may not have a nefarious agenda, and as such, it's no problem for him to get our personal data, when we all know, at least on our side, that Donald Trump clearly has nefarious agendas for many things, and we can't trust him as far as we can throw him. And of course, with my bad knee, I shouldn't be throwing anybody, right? Let's go back through the... Oh, Aaron's here. Good to see you, Aaron. Thank you for joining. I wasn't expecting. I know you said you might be showing up today, but glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. Redneck JU7 says, "Do you think over on Twitch says, do you think ICE is going the SS route?" Abso-frickin-lutely, I do. Hell. Look at the SS going. I've talked about this on the last show, and I'll repeat myself. I like to repeat myself on the show sometimes, especially if it's, hammering home a point. Absolutely. ICE goes, SS went door to door hunting for Jewish people. J.D. Vance said that ICE was going to be knocking door to door looking for people who are, quote, illegal. So yeah, when you're terrorizing communities like that, knocking door to door to try and catch people without any sort of probable cause, and just instead looking like, come out wherever you are, yeah, those that's just one of many examples of ICE being a bunch of frickin' Nazis. And there's more than one example, but yeah, we've gone over that, but that is just one example. And Redneck JU says thank you. You're welcome, and thank you for asking the question, and thank you for joining us here. Make sure to follow. Let's see. I said that back during 45. My MAGA friends couldn't understand. No, because nobody who is part of MAGA who would potentially want to be good. Thank you for the follow. Nobody who is part of MAGA is going to admit. They're not going to admit that they supported the bad horse, that they supported a Nazi, because then they'd have to admit that they made a mistake. And often conservatives are unlikely to admit mistakes that they make. Some do, but many don't. And that's just essential theme of especially modern day conservatism, is to admit that you did anything wrong to anybody except for, I guess, Jesus Christ, is somehow a moral failing on your part, that you should never admit that you were wrong at all, because you think that people are going to view you as weak. They criticize Obama's so-called apology tour, for daring to say, oh, the U.S. might have screwed up once or twice, and as such, we're going to make amends for it. So, but yeah, and when people try to say that, Donald Trump is using Hitler tactics to try and gain power, specifically with his telling, we need to ban Muslims from entering the country, therefore scapegoating an entire religion for our woes, our problems in this country, when it came to him using Lügenpresse, lying press, fake news, etc. Another example of him using Hitler's tactics, lather, rinse, repeat, and people are like, oh, you're ridiculous, you're crazy, Dan, you don't know what you're talking about, Dan, you're just being paranoid, Dan. Well, am I? Was I? No, I was not. And then again, this administration, I don't know if you caught this part earlier, Redneck JO, is the fact that, again, the executive order that Donald Trump wrote, titled Additional Members to Combat Anti-Semitism, was numbered Executive Order 14188. Right here. 14188 is the executive order. I don't know why I'm using my OBS to kind of highlight it. It's here that I'm trying to highlight it. Executive Order 11488 and 148814. Again, the 14 words that white supremacists use as a dog whistle to all of their other anti-Semites, to basically say this is why we're doing what we're doing. And then 88 HH, H is the eighth letter, HH stands for hail, you know who. So we'll say the words once, because I mean you can Google it yourself. The primary slogan in the 14 words is, we must secure the existence of our people and future for white children, is exactly how it's worded. That's the 14 words right there. And then it's followed by a secondary slogan, because the beauty of white Aryan women must not perish from the earth. Yeah. So those are the 14 words in the 14 used in 14/88. And of course, 88 is very simple. 8th letter of the alphabet, H, Hail Hitler. So therefore, there you go. That's how we, that's who that dog whistle was for. But again, this administration called me crazy. Jeff Carrere, Ringside Politics in the morning, called me crazy for daring to suggest that this was anything but a coincidence. This can't be a coincidence. Why? Because he has Jewish grandkids. Well, fuck that. You know, the person who was supposed to be my grandfather did some shitty things to me as a kid too. Just because you're a grandparent, it doesn't mean you're not a shitty ass human being. Let's just put it that way, right? It sounds like money. I don't know. Donald Trump loves money. That's for damn sure. So Kinky Streets, 9 minutes ago, DHS funding bill stalls in Senate as partial government shutdown looms. Very good. Let's hope that the Democrats this time will keep their spines and not fucking, you know, cave like they did the last time when it came to the Affordable Care Act subsidies. But, you know, I have no doubt in my mind. I do not believe that you know, the Democrats are capable of, you know, maintaining their spinal fortitude, if you will, or as some might call it, their testicular fortitude. I don't know. You know, you get kicked in the balls, it hurts. I don't know how much fortitude testicles have, but anyway. Sorry. Let's see. What else? Vaginas are tougher. Yes, exactly. As whatchamacallit, Betty White says, balls are very sensitive, but vaginas can sure take a pounding, right?
Oh my.
Anyway, so thank you, late great Betty White. Thank you for being a friend. What else have I missed? Kinky Streets is a tribal in the middle of the jungle that never heard of God, blessed if it lives morally, ethically. The answer is yes, according to the New Testament, probably the most progressive comment in it or whatever. Let's see. What is a tribe in the middle of the jungle that never heard of God, blessed if it lives morally and ethically? And so you say the answer is yes, according to the New Testament, probably the most progressive comment in it. And I would say, but even if the New Testament says that, no, there are many Christians, especially conservative Christians, who will tell you no, that that's not the case, that if you don't hear the gospel and you don't accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you're going to die. And it doesn't matter if, you know, you didn't hear it and not you have the opportunity to hear it. There are people who think that infants who are not baptized, you know, they're very scared to bring their infants out into public because they're worried that if their infants get somehow die before they can get baptized, that they're going to be sent straight to hell, even though they couldn't have possibly done anything wrong, simply because of the whole idea of original sin. Teresa's here. Good to see you, Teresa. Thank you for joining the show. Let's see. Big Hook said something to the effect of knee-jerk reaction aside the fact, Dan, I don't remember what I was talking about at the time when you said that. I apologize. I don't think I said hello to Roxanne. Hello to Roxanne. Good to see you as well. We're getting close to 9 o'clock on the top of the hour. So again, Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's not right. Live Mondays and Wednesdays and Thursdays here at liberaldanradio.com or twitch.liberaldanradio.com. Anyway, it gets you there. You can support the show by coming on the YouTube channel, making sure to like, share, and comment on videos. Commenting being, I think, the most important thing, as we've seen. We've seen some of my monthly views going up even higher than it had been, simply because people are making those comments. And if just a few of y'all's comments made the views grow by 10 grand in a month, then I can only imagine what would happen if other people would start, you know, making comments as well. That might be the catalyst to cause the show to grow more and more. Other ways to support the show, you go to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me a Cider button, or just go to buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio. Venmo, at liberaldan on Venmo, to send to friends and family. You're not buying anything. You can go to, you can gift subscriptions here on Twitch. You can gift memberships on YouTube. If you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to Liberal Dan Radio and Twitch. Just you have to do it every month because it doesn't automatically renew. You have to do it manually yourself. It's stupid. I don't know why they do it, but ask Bezos, not me. You can also super chat, super stickers, bits, etc. And there's also the Liberal Dan Radio store where you can buy shirts like the FDT, the Man of La MAGA shirt, the Melt Ice shirt, and just a plain old Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left, That's Right t-shirt that you can wear proudly and share the good news of Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left, That's Right. Let's see. Did I say hello to Christine? Hello to Christine. Good to see you as well, if I had not said that. I'm late. Did you see the interview with the pink coat lady from the Alex Preddy murder? I had not seen that. I don't think. We could always look that up real quick, though, because, you know, we can act quickly. Did we shut that down already? We'll mute this. Is there an official name, or is it just Alex Preddy pink coat interview? I mean, I think there was one. I did see something about them basically saying something to the effect that Pink Jacket Lady describes Alex Preddy altercation. That is loud in my ears. Okay, so here we go. We can go ahead and watch this real quick. It's a CNN exclusive. Hopefully just the 2-minute version is not going to cause us to get problems with CNN and copyright filters, whatever. But here you go.
I am a children's entertainer. I run a children's entertainment company. I'm a face and body painter, also an airbrush artist.
Why have you decided to come forward?
I really believe that America wants the truth, and I want people to know who I am, so I'm not just the pink jacket lady, and that I represent all of us, because we all have a story and we all have a reason in which we decide to go to the street and open our phones and video record. And I just feel called to be somebody to show my face and represent that. We ask that ICE agents and all of the people in the streets who are infiltrating and making us unsafe to do the same thing. So this is an opportunity for me to show my face.
How long have you been involved with monitoring?
I noticed she's showing her face, but ICE is too cowardly to show their faces. Let's continue.
Law enforcement actions here.
Only the past 3 weeks, the month of January, since they've been infiltrating our streets, kidnapping people off the street. So since the beginning, I was doing meal delivery 3 weeks ago and trying to make sure that I was a part of the mutual aid. That moved to crisis response and just walking my neighborhood, most specifically the schools, and making sure when school got out that there were enough bodies in the area for people to just feel safe.
So Saturday morning, what were your plans Saturday morning?
Saturday morning, I was booked to be at a church to face paint for 3 hours for their community gathering.
You're going to be face painting kids?
Yes. I had some downtime. I got ready a little too quick that day.
So you heard the whistles somewhere
close by
and decided to drive there?
Yes. When I turned onto Nicollet Avenue, my plan was to just drive by and kind of assess what is going on.
When did you see Alex Preddy? What interaction did you have with him before the camera was rolling?
Yeah, so when I turned, the caravan of vehicles of ICE agents, I could tell were starting to kind of move in and block us in. I could have probably gotten through, and I'll be clear to say that as I went, I was almost going to be driving past Alex, and I did think of Renee Good in that moment, because as I looked forward, I was seeing somebody on the ground being tackled by agents. I saw another vehicle coming the other direction trying to drive through, getting tackled by agents, and they were punching the windows. So at that moment, I was like, I need to not go forward. And I looked at Alex, he looked at me, and he pointed to the parking spot, and I was like, okay, just park.
And there you go.
Brian is the best content marketing team.
So, yeah. I mean, this woman is highly, much more brave than the people who are currently serving in ICE, because she's showing her face. And of course, somebody brought up 250 Kilo Ohm says she named herself now. Now the feds know her name, but but that's why she's brave and they're not, because the feds know her name and we don't know the feds' name of the people who murdered Alex Preddy. So we need more people who are going to come out and be like outwardly vocal and say, yes, this is my name. I oppose what ICE is doing. I mean, look, I start every show of mine starting off by saying that this is Dan Zimmerman here down in New Orleans. I proudly say who I am, and then I stand in opposition to this administration, to these fascists, to these Nazis who are in charge, and to these enforcement actions that are being taken, supposed enforcement actions that are being taken in the supposed name of our security and freedom, but are really being done in the name of terrorization of our communities. So I have no problem saying who I am, and if I was maybe a little more able-bodied, if my knee was better, I might go out and join those protests as well, maybe cover the protest as well. But until that happens, I won't be able to. That being said, I will use my voice to continue to speak out against the injustices that are being done both by the administration, by law enforcement, everything like that. And look, and even if law enforcement does the right thing and steps up and actually prevents ICE from doing everything, I will give them the kudos, even if, you know, I do often have a problem with modern day policing and the tactics that easy for me to say, and the tactics that they use as well. So, let's see here. Satin Flower Dragon, the feds weren't interested in talking to her at all. I bet they're interested now. I'm sure they are, but talking to her previously would probably be just hurting the case. Talking to her now would probably be done to try and, you know, convince her to keep her mouth shut, because that's what Nazi thugs do. They want the people who speak out to basically just keep their mouths shut. That's why they use fear and intimidation. That's why they do what they do, is to try and make it so that you're too afraid to speak up, to stand up, and to say, F you, ICE, get out of my city, get out of my town, get away from my neighborhood, stop harassing and vilifying people simply because they look foreign, and start, you know, doing what your actual job is. Like, if you're on the Border Patrol, get on the fucking border. If you want to stop people from crossing illegally, get on the goddamn border and actually stop people from crossing illegally. But they're not there. They're all these other places, which is why I have no idea why the Trump administration can say any sort of claim that we have zero illegal crossings at the southern border, because it's full of shit. And we know it, because there's no way they can know about it. So, Big Hook says New York Times is a great analysis early today, and apparently CNN has 7-minute video, which makes the full context clear. And maybe there was a longer video. That's the short one that I saved or whatever. But again, it's just frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating to have to try and convince people that, and to have them just see what's going on in front of their eyes and say, this is what's going on. How can you defend this? How can you still support this? How can you not speak out against what is going on by this administration? And while some people who are on the right who are not the anti-Trump, the never-Trumpers, although I guess wasn't J.D. Vance a never-Trump guy at first too, especially when he called Trump America's Hitler, and now he's, you know, second in command of the Fourth Reich. So, you know, there you go. She took video of Alex's murder, if that wasn't clear. Yes, it was. And there was also somebody who got a, I don't know if this is the same video. There's also a video from the front seat of the car that had happened, you know, where the person, I don't know if that was the same video or not, the same person or not, but I did see the video of, I'm not going to play it just because I don't want YouTube to be like, hey, you know, whatever, but you can easily find, you know, the video from the front seat of the car that took place that they were right next to where Alex Preddy got murdered. So, Jeff Curry, 40 Helens agree Trump is a moron. Unfortunately, people identify with him simply because he's a moron, right? So, yeah, Satan Flower Dragon, or Satin Flower Dragon, I should say. I'm Satan Flower Dragon. I think it's Satin Flower, right? That's right, crickets and lizards at the southern border. Yep, nobody else crossing except for the crickets and the lizards. So, and the problem with the New York Times doing a great analysis here like today is the New York Times is behind a paywall, and I tend to not support news organizations that have paywalls. I might show the videos if they have the video available on like YouTube or whatever, but you know, I tend to not even bother with the New York Times anymore, simply because they can't figure out a way to make money as part of the media without having a paywall. Yeah, I mean, if you want a paywall to add, you know, additional extra content, but like, for example, there's not much content that I have, if anything, that's available only behind a paywall. I think only the old episodes of Liberal Dan Radio, or not Liberal Dan Radio, but Dan and Dave on the Air, that I did prior to starting Liberal Dan Radio. Those are behind a paywall simply because it's the best place to put it, because if I put it on YouTube, I'd get a bunch of copyright strikes. Knight in white Satan. Yeah. Knight in white Satan. One of my uncles challenged me to make up a parody, Nights with My Statins or whatever like that, and I made a song about that and being on Lipitor or whatever, and it was, you know, it kind of was funny. I don't know. So what else? There's not really. I was expecting to go on a little bit more of a rant than I was anticipating going on, talking about Donald Trump and the anti-Semitism of the EEOC investigation into UPenn or whatever. And I guess I finished up much more quickly than I did because I didn't have much more stuff to talk about beyond that. So what I might very well do tonight is just simply just end the show after an hour today. We'll be back tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central, here on twitch.liberaldanradio.com or on liberaldanradio.com, which is the link to the YouTube channel. You know, check that out. Make sure to subscribe and or follow as appropriate. The free thing to do, go check out the YouTube videos. Make sure to share, like, whatever. If you haven't heard Liberal Dan Radio music yet, we'll play a couple of our original pieces on the way out as we normally do. But again, lots of stuff to take care of, and I have a couple of other things that I need to do, I guess, for potential new job opportunities. We're seeing how that's slowly progressing, but we will see what happens and what we hear back from other interviews that I did, and we'll go from there, and hopefully we'll have good, solid news coming up in the next few weeks with my employment situation. But until then, yeah, go check out the Liberal Dan Radio store, which is Liberal Dan Radio. Let's see, we can pin that to the top of the, we'll pin that to the store link to the top of the YouTube channel. Of course, if you see any YouTube video, it should have my links to the store, so you can see the several different shirts that I have available. And actually do have, thank you to Fancy. Wow, It's Fancy did make the first Liberal Dan Radio purchase from the Liberal Dan Radio store, bought an FDT cup. It's a coffee mug, but you shouldn't be drinking coffee out of it because it's an FDT cup, right? Because we all say FDT. So everyone else is saying goodnight. I'm just waking up. Well, good morning, Christine. Thank you for joining us, even if you're just waking up. Glad I can be your first voice in the morning, right? Anyway, thank y'all so much. Appreciate y'all. And again, we will be going out with some of the Liberal Dan Radio music. If you like it, it's both on Spotify and on YouTube. You could share either one. There is a Resist playlist for Liberal Dan Radio on Spotify, and also there is the playlist of original Liberal Dan music, some of which is music that I created as kind of a rethinking of Tom Lehrer music, but the other one is just music that I created and I tried to create a new one. I was trying to have a new one for today, and I had all these lyrics written out, and for some reason the Marika software that I use says, nope, you can't write a song with these lyrics. It goes against our content policies, but they wouldn't say what the content policies are, so I have a ticket open with them, trying to see what the hell was wrong with the lyrics so I know not to do it, how not to do it again. Maybe by tomorrow we'll have a new Liberal Dan Radio song. I don't know, but till then, listen to the good old favorite, had Biden done it, Baby Incubators, and if Trump can't see it, it does not exist. Appreciate everyone. Again, if you haven't hit the like button on the way in, smash that like button on YouTube on the way out, and have a good one. Peace.
Trump did it, so it they call treason if chosen name. Is patriotism when Donald's to blame? Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, more numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Obama and Bush's pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten, hung in a hallway where no tour can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, object permanence, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist. The testing was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, an administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Of documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Encampments downtown, tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't need. Hide them away so the cameras can't find it. Proof of a system that's cold and unkind. Of chaotic secret and NDA sign. An illegal bribe, Michael Cohen fine. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag, cause he was much shorter. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds. Treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake. But the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect. But they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap. Rights roll back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still. Just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist. Just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God. Bodies ain't temples, just stay on pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands dance in the dark, they don't care who it kills. Sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright, cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Kill the ends here, ain't no grace, and those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.
The creative director at WGSO had a little something he thought you should know. When Dan picked on his bits, Steve got real gruff. So Steve called Dan a flake, called him liberal dandruff. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Steve's about to find out his mistake. In this feud, Dan's Kendrick, Steve is Drake. Dan might not be the world's best singer, but he's got more talent in his little finger. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest.